This episode of Me, You, and Who is brought to you by the Egg Donor and Surrogate Solutions education team. Delivery day is coming, and as an intended parent, you deserve to feel informed, empowered, and prepared. If you're an intended parent currently working with our team, we are hosting a special live webinar for you, Creating a Birth Plan, Navigating Delivery Day as an Intended Parent. Head over to our Intended Parent Facebook group, June 5th at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. Surrogacy is unique, and your birth plan should be too. So let's talk about it together. Mark your calendar and come be part of the conversation. See you there. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Me, You, and Who. On today's episode, I'm excited to sit down with intended mother and author Brandi Pearce, who shares how she built her family through surrogacy. Brandi opens up about the unique challenges she faced when doing two independent journeys before she came to Egg Donor and Surrogate Solutions for her final journey. Our conversation explores not only the hurdles along the way, like legal surprises, as well as emotional complexities, but also the joys that come when building your family in this way. Join us as Brandi discusses the power of support, the importance of clear communication, and even how she documented her journey through a children's book called Mommy's Oven. Whether you're curious about surrogacy or seeking inspiration in overcoming life's obstacles, this conversation is sure to resonate with you. Enjoy! Me, you, and who? Who knew it would take more than two people to have a baby? In a world where infertility is no longer a taboo topic, this podcast will take you through all of the different aspects of surrogacy and egg donation through the lens of many who walk this journey in different ways. My name is Whitney Hall, and I am a two-time surrogate, now turned surrogacy coordinator for Egg Donor and Surrogate Solutions, the very agency I used when I chose to carry for two amazing families. With this podcast, it is our goal to help guide and support you as you learn about what it takes to grow a family in an alternative way, as well as hear inspiring and beautiful stories of how this path has changed lives forever. We can't wait for you to hear about just one more way happy families are created every day. Brandi, I'm so glad you're here. This is so exciting.
Thank you. Me too.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, we'll just dive right in. First of all, I feel lucky enough to get to just have this moment and come full circle with you, since I was privileged and honored to get to be your coordinator during your journey. But before even I came onto the scene, I would love to just go way back. You have three beautiful children, all brought to the world through surrogacy. But I just want to know, let's just start there. What led you to surrogacy being the way that you were going to grow your family?
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to be here with you too, because you have gotten to be on all the last process with us, and you have been
Yes.
you've been such a blessing.
Oh, thank you.
So I was in the hospital for 6 years with Crohn's disease. And
Legitimately in the hospital. Yeah.
Yes, I've had 82 abdominal surgeries.
Oh my gosh.
I was in a coma. All the things that I did not used to look like this. I was bald, like 80 pounds. All the things that basically make a woman's body not the perfect place to hold a baby.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you were just fighting for your own life. Goodness. Yeah.
So they always said, "Oh, she's not going to have kids," and I was like, "Well, we'll see." Don't tell me what I can't do.
That's the best attitude to have. Yes.
Like this, you're not going to tell me that I'm not going to have my babies. So
yes.
My husband and I, we started trying, and we knew there was a possibility.
Sure.
And we went to the doctor, and they said, it would kill you. It would kill the baby. You guys, this would just be the worst. There's no, if you could even get pregnant, because I just have so much scar tissue and all kinds of stuff. And
sure,
obviously the first reaction is just shock and devastation. And they were like, there's tons of options. My husband was adopted, when he was 12 with 2 siblings from Russia.
Mm.
So, we were open to whatever
Sure,
possible.
alternative building your family. Yeah, alternative building of the family. Yeah, totally
Yeah.
a thing. Yeah.
And then for work, we worked. My husband traveled for work. He would open offices in different states, and so we have friends all over, which is wonderful. It's such a gift that it was a great opportunity to meet people around the world. But we had some friends that the husband, of course, this has happened twice. Husbands always volunteer their wives for things. Don't I bet my wife would carry your baby. That's not a thing that you get to say.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Are we having dinner? Like, are we just like in like the little kitchen of the office when this conversation is happening?
Well, we
Like,
have been in places together when we traveled for work, and this was a friend of ours, and and she was moving back down with her daughter to be with him, and we just happened to be talking to her one day, and she was like, I've always wanted to do that. And she was a
oh
friend
my
of ours, and
gosh.
she said, I'd love to. She had no desire to have any more kids. She had her own at he and her had a kid when they were young, and she said, no, one's good. I don't, but I would love to do this for y'all. And within, I think it was just a few months, like we all moved in together and started doing all the steps, and we had no idea what we were doing. Like,
Wow.
no idea. We went to a
Yeah,
doctor. We knew that like you could retrieve eggs and you could retrieve sperm and you could create embryos, but like no idea.
sure.
We were just like, okay, here's a step. Okay, here's a step. We talked to our fertility doctors, and we were in San Antonio at the time, and they were like, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. But during all of this, we had no idea that like, oh, in 3 months you pay X number of dollars. So like we were just
Oh, wow. You were
living by the seat of our pants.
flying by the seat of your pants.
Yes. At one point we sold 2 cars and a dog because we needed X number of dollars the next week for the transfer or whatever.
Wow.
We were not prepared at all. We had no idea what we were doing. Thank the Lord he was on our side in this, because it was literally like just step by step we were making it by.
Yeah, for sure. Well, my gosh, like that combination is like what nightmares are made of. And thank God it like didn't. I mean, all of the stars aligned where all was well.
I mean, we hit hiccup after hiccup after hiccup because we had no idea what we were doing. Like, we got to the legal work and they were like, oh, you need a lawyer. And before we can start her retreat or her medicine, you need a lawyer.
Right.
And so we had to go find a lawyer. And then they were like, here's the paperwork you'll need. With our first one at about 5 months pregnant, like I said, she had a daughter, and we didn't want her to have to move schools in the middle of her school year after Stephanie gave birth. And so we thought, well, we'll move, because our job was flexible. We'll move to where y'all are going to live, because her family lived in a different state. Her family lived in Utah, and we live in Texas.
Uh-huh.
And she was going to go live with her family once the baby was born. And so we wanted to put her daughter in the school that she was going to be in before, because of the way the school year fell and everything.
Yeah, sure.
We moved up there at like 5 months pregnant. Mm-hmm. At 7 months, when you're supposed to go in and do all the hospital stuff.
Yeah, you got your parentage paperwork, and you go register at the hospital, and yeah.
Like, you walk in, you fill out the paperwork, and you walk out. And Stephanie and I were the only ones in Utah. Our husbands were still working back in Texas. And the lady said, this legal work is not recognizable in the state of Utah. And I was like, what does that mean? And she said, oh, if the baby is born right now, the hospital won't let you take the baby home. Oh. And I was like, what? Like, we were in over our heads. We had no idea. Well, I literally called my husband, like, you need to be here right now. I don't know what's going on, but we can't take our baby home. And this isn't like our second or third time doing it where I'm like, okay, it's no big deal. We'll get it figured out. This is like, I'm not going to get.
We're freaking out. Yeah.
I'm freaking out. Like, Stephanie doesn't want any more children. What are we doing? Like, it was terrifying. And thankfully, my husband's parents, knew adoption. Oh, and that was the other thing, was that every state is different in what their legal requirements are. And at the time, our oldest is 10. So at the time, this was about 11 years ago. I don't know what the law is now there, but at the time they did not recognize surrogacy paperwork as in like pre-birth orders.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great highlight because you're right. Every single state is, not every state recognizes surrogacy or allows surrogacy. Like Michigan just this last year in 2024 just became a state where you could legally, do surrogacy. And then within that, every state has their own, laws and requirements that you have to follow. And yes, if, just because you drafted your contract in Texas doesn't mean that Utah is going to recognize it. And then some states are what's called a pre-birth order or a post-birth order. And, yes, it is all so, and you have to go and have certain things before a judge. And sometimes you have to go, but sometimes you don't. I mean, it's all like, it's all different.
Is different. That's exactly what happened. Well, we went to the lawyer, and my husband was there, and he said, "Could you so in Utah, you have to do the legal work like you would for an adoption." Mm-hmm. So at 7 months, I had to get not my husband. He was going to go on the birth certificate.
I see.
I had to have letters of recommendation, pictures of my home, approval from the judge that I could adopt
your own child,
my baby. I was freaking out, which I'm all for following that. I wanted to be able to take home my baby, but I was like, why me, not him? Like, yeah. So my first two children I had to adopt, but my husband did not. So we did I had to do and of course, I mean, the judge instantly got the paperwork and signed away and was not, there was, when we were 7 months pregnant with our biological baby that we have literally gone to the ends of the earth to make. So like,
truly, yeah.
This is your baby. I'm not going to take that, they made it an easy process. And of course, every hospital is different, but they were able to get us a triage room to see the baby. Our second baby was born in Washington.
Okay.
Wait,
hold on. So even after that experience, we wanted to do it again. And I mean, and ultimately it was a beautiful experience. You got your baby and it was amazing, but we're doing it again. But then you still went independent. You still wanted to go.
So, for one, my husband, when we got married, he had a big family, and he said, "Oh, I want 6 kids. I want 6 kids." And we had August, and he was like, "One's good." It was hard. He was so hard. I'll tell you what, if we had our daughter, which is our third, first, we would probably have 6 kids. August was hell on wheels, and every second of it. He's wonderful, but he was a hard baby. So it took us 5 years to have our next one, because it took 2 years to convince him to have another baby. And then 2 years to make him,
Right. Oh my gosh.
But we still went independent. Another friend, again, like I said, husbands love to volunteer their wives.
So funny.
we had expressed that we were starting again, and one of our close friends, he and his wife, we were together at the time. They lived in Washington, but we do a lot of trips together for work. And
Yeah.
he was like, "What about you, Julia?" And she was like, "Honestly, I've always thought about doing it." She has 4 kids, and but it's just funny to me because husbands are always like, "Oh, I bet my wife would do it." I'm like, "Fool, you don't volunteer your wife."
Oh my God.
No to husbands.
Just hear it now. Hear it now, my friends. Just ask your wife first before you go and volunteer that.
No, she was very eager, and she absolutely wanted to do it, and she's wonderful. And again, these were both friends of mine prior to
Moving forward with surrogacy. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and we so we were a lot more prepared that time because I think we, in our minds, we thought we knew all the ins and outs of what needed to happen, and we were like, "Oh, we got this. We know everything that needs to happen."
Well, the worst had already happened, and you have run into every hiccup, and you know,
everything.
yeah.
That first one, it was everything. With the second one, we did run into some things. Like I said, Oliver was born in Washington. And so there, they have another different process, different from Texas and Utah. We had to have a lawyer in Washington and a lawyer in Texas that represented both of us that
like one drafts the paperwork, but the other one represents the other, but then you have to have the parentage in that state, and
yeah,
exactly.
It was in opposite states. And with that one as well, it was prior to, but on the birth certificate, it was Julia and Nick. Nick is my husband.
Right.
Julia is the surrogate. And then after the baby was born, which was very unfortunate because it was during COVID. Oh no. We had to file for me to be put onto the birth certificate. But because of COVID, I couldn't call in. I couldn't do anything. Nick was trying to get all this done because they wouldn't legally let me because I wasn't on anything. So that was another battle that we couldn't.
No. So like you can't even like take him to the doctor and say, like his pediatrician appointments, like you weren't even able to be like.
Because I mean, we had papers saying that we brought him home from the hospital. Like they had her and her husband actually had to sign a paper saying that we could take the baby from the hospital, which was interesting. I've never heard of that before, but yeah, he had to sign it too. But as far as birth certificates, passports, anything legal,
yeah,
they wouldn't the Social Security office would not send his Social Security card to my address because it had Julia's name on it.
Oh my god!
It was things that you could probably fix really quickly, but because of COVID, everything
it just delayed everything. Yeah, for sure.
But that one was fun too because she was in Washington for a lot of it, but we got to spend time with her family, and my kids are friends with her friends, and so it was a fun. The first one, they lived with us through the whole pregnancy. So this time around, we were in different states, so it was different. Yeah. You have all those concerns of it was interesting because with August, I really thought in the first 4 months, I was like, he knows I'm not his mom. And really it was just, I was exhausted. He wasn't sleeping or going to the bathroom or any of these things. And my husband would come home calm and he would calm down. But the doctor said, "Oh, you have postpartum." And I'm like, "No, I didn't carry him." And he's like, "No, but you can have postpartum as a mom of a baby, even if you didn't." And I was like, I didn't know that was even a thing. Agreed. With Julia living in a different state, I thought, am I going to feel the same way? Is this going to happen again? And I think having done it the first time, the second time was such an easier emotional and mental transition to that new baby. And knowing that he's my baby, like,
oh yeah,
without a doubt, this is my baby. And I was just extremely blessed to have somebody that I love and cherish get to house him and care for him in the process.
absolutely. Well, and I mean, and not to mention with August, like you said, like that was you were truly on a wild ride from the very beginning, and then it sounds like August kept that wild ride going, as far as just his sweet little colicky self, it sounds like, but yeah, I mean, that's a lot. That really is a lot. And and yes, I think everybody can come back and say, everybody's journey is so different, but yeah, especially like having August at home and then knowing like, okay, and now new baby's coming, and you kind of have a little bit, you kind of know what to expect.
Yeah.
But that is a lot. That is a lot.
And we also only had one embryo every time we did the process, which was so like this added fear.
Yeah.
Just carried throughout every process, because it was such a battle to get an embryo, and such a, every time they would call and say, we're not really sure we're going to have an embryo, and so not only do you have that weight, but then both families that we were with, each time it was like they had that weight of, please let there be an embryo, and so we were all in this thing each time. And so even saying like, oh, is he going to know I'm his mom? Like, we have all spent all this time and emotion and love for this little hope of something, Yeah. So they were just wild roller coasters and worth every second.
Oh, absolutely worth every second. Yes, for sure.
And then to our third, 5 years later, again.
It took 5 more years. All right, 2 years to convince, and then no, for sure, absolutely. And then that's whenever you said to yourself, we're gonna try the agency route.
Yes. Yeah. We of course, doing these, way back then, there was not as much communication about these kinds of things. There wasn't as much talk about it. Like,
yeah, for sure.
When we went through August process, the very beginning, I did not know a soul that had done surrogacy. I mean, most people's common question was, "Oh, do you just not want to get fat?" Like, it was limited. I love the saying, ignorance is bliss, because people aren't purposely clueless as to what is going on. They genuinely don't know. And so, and that was exactly what the very first one was like, nobody talked about it. It wasn't a thing that, like,
sure.
I had so many people message me and say, oh, we went through this and we didn't tell anyone because we just didn't want to get all the backlash or all the confrontation or all the fear, or all the added weight of emotion and stress and concern, because it wasn't a thing then. Like, people didn't share about it.
Yeah.
So, once we'd gone through it twice, we man, doing it with you guys it's just been a blessing. Of course, with 2 kids now, when we started this one,
Mom, you got you're in full mom mode. You're in,
max full time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Like, there's no time, there's no spare time to, you want to start the process, and you want the, our IVF company is 2 hours from us.
Right.
So even when I started the medications, every other morning at 5 a.m, I drive 2 hours away to get blood work done.
Right.
To come back to, kids and jobs and work and all,
Yeah, life keeps going.
And so the added weight and fear and stress and concerns of trying to make sure every I was dotted and T was crossed was just a little too much for us to do without help. And man, you don't cross every T before we even had the concern. It was such a blessing.
I think my favorite, you and I were on the phone once, and you were like, yeah, Nick was like, hey, where are we in whatever, and you looked at him and you were like, I don't know, and I don't have to know.
It was such a weight, it was such a weight lifted to have that. You want to say small portion of it, but it's like all of it, all of the work part of it was taken off, which is it's already such an emotional roller coaster to go through this process, but to do it and have to do every single detail and not miss something or redo it, or even in the process, we had a mishap literally on the day of delivery, and we knew we didn't have to fear or worry or stress because you were like, I got it. Yeah. It was such a weight lifted. And of course, we did not have a surrogate. Mm-hmm. In the first 2 times, we were very blessed to have friends that offered. And this time we weren't in that position to say, okay, well,
Yeah.
And we love Sydney. She is so wonderful. And they were the perfect match for our family and our kids and the relationship. And it was just right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and going back to what you said of, that fear and that worry, and you're thinking about all of those moving parts, and to get to have the ability to, like you said, it already is an emotional roller coaster. And instead of, and you had all of the other fears and all of the other, you're up at 5 a.m. to get to where you need to go because you've got to do your egg retrieval. And then it's, okay, now we're thinking about transfer day, and now we're, just all of those things. And instead of worrying about paperwork and and all of that, you get to and especially once Sydney was pregnant, now you just get to enjoy it.
Yes.
You don't have to worry about those next steps, or my gosh, the fear of having to adopt your own baby, and just all of those things.
Even just conversations that no matter what process you're in, you always have to have some really hard conversations with that other family or that other couple or that other woman, whether you've known them forever or you've just met them. And it was a blessing to have you be able to relay those things in order for neither of us to
have that affect y'all's relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. You guys got to grow that emotional bond, and, and then on this other side, it's like, all right, let's check those business boxes and let's talk about this.
Yeah. Very first time, it was very scary because, I think this is a normal fear to have for any mom. Dads are different, I think, but especially because mom usually carries the baby. They have that relationship and that feeling. And my very first time, it was like, that baby's gonna know that he was in her belly and not mine. The baby, and that's what my brain was telling me. I was like, oh my gosh, Nick, I don't know how to talk to her about blah blah blah, and my husband is very blunt, and he'd be like, oh, I'll do it, and I'm like, maybe not, but I couldn't do it because I was gonna cry because I was so afraid I was gonna hurt her feelings, or so worried that she might be upset or disappointed or frustrated or whatever, and it was like, you get Nick or you get me. And this time you were able to, have those conversations that really we were probably both on the same page on. We just didn't know it, and we're afraid to talk to each other about it.
Yeah.
So it was a blessing to have you be able to communicate those things for both of us.
Yeah, I mean, just having that bridge and just having kind of, that one person to kind of break the ice and, just keep things. Yeah, absolutely.
And we really were both on the same page in things. We just didn't know it because we were so afraid to either hurt one another or breach that subject or talk about that or discuss what would happen or, And this time was different as well. We, our first embryo did not. And so we did have to do everything from scratch again, which was another, it was different from the first two. So every time has had its ups and downs.
Its own unique experience.
Prepared for. It's not something that, Crohn's disease is a hidden illness, right?
Right.
You don't see it from the outside. People always talk about hidden illnesses and how you don't necessarily know. And with a lot of those, everything is unpredictable. Every single person is different. Like my sister-in-law has a similar thing, and one of my friends has a similar thing, and they'll ask me questions about it and say, what do I do? And every single thing is different. Surrogacy is the exact same way. Every single situation is different. We've met so many families in the last 11, 12 years with different scenarios completely, and you cannot prepare for the unknown. Yeah. You just have to take it as it comes and be willing to be flexible with the journey.
Mm-hmm. No, you're so right. You're so right. And and that's why it is so important to build that trusted team and people that you can rely on, and, and having a good attorney and a great agency and, that doctor that you are trusting, and, you have that team for a reason, because it is so, you don't know what you don't know. And you can prepare and prepare and prepare. And sometimes things go cookie cutter, and then sometimes things go haywire. And, but if you have that support, it makes what can feel overwhelming, you can take it in bite-sized chunks. Yeah, for sure. For sure. So you're going back to, Oliver's on the way. And, you say to yourself, well, I guess maybe at what point did you decide, you know what, I want to document in said children's book form? What was that catalyst to be like, let me write this all down?
So that's funny because actually Stephanie, our first surrogate, had kind of tried to explain to her daughter,
sure,
why she was carrying our baby,
right.
And at the time, her daughter was, I believe, 6.
Okay.
And she was kind of explaining it in the same manner, and it was kind of like a short, here's what's happened, here's why. And it was really funny. Her daughter would, at one point we went to school to register her, and she was like, the prince. I went with Stephanie to register her, and the principal said, and how are you related? And her daughter said, my mom's carrying her baby. And it was so the end. And this was at a time when this wasn't talked about,
Right, sure.
And she's like, yeah, I'm her baby mama. Feeding into the fun of I am a firm believer of when things are rough and things are hard, you laugh and you joke, and that is how you get through it.
I love it. Yes.
Because otherwise, And so, so August was about 4 when we started. Well, I guess it was 3 when we actually started, but by the time we were ready to start transferring and start doing all the stuff and shots. And, he was there. He watched me getting medication. He knew that something was happening. And so we wanted him to get to not only witness and be a part of it, but like understand that there was a baby coming and that it was going to be his sibling. And I was not going to have a big tummy. And, and so we started to explain the process, and we were like, just like you, mommy has ingredients, daddy had ingredients, so we put them together and we made you. But my oven doesn't work, and Julia's oven does work, and so she's going to grow your little sibling in her tummy, but it's going to come home with us. And so we started telling him this story, and we just kept explaining it in the same way, and people kept saying, you need to write that, you need to make that a book. And one day I just sat down and I wrote the whole story out, and I thought, it was just on a scratch piece of paper, and I thought, you're right, lots of people need to understand this, not just August.
Yeah.
Other siblings, other kids that are going to be born through this process are going to feel maybe separated, or one of my deepest concerns initially, before we started anything, was like adoption. Is my kid going to want to know the woman who carried him? Is he going to want to meet him? Like, is he going to want a relationship? And so I wanted to build that bridge before we reached it, so that it was an easy understanding for him. He wasn't going, why didn't they ever tell me that I was carrying somebody else's baby? Why didn't they, explain to me that mommy didn't give birth to me? I wanted him to be able to understand it in a way that he could understand it at a young age, and it was just common knowledge. It was just something that was completely normal.
Well, and it is. I mean, it's, every birth is, or everyone's birth story should be celebrated. And I think that's what this is. This is just a beautiful celebration of just one more way that families are created.
Yes.
Just like, families are built differently, and, in how people decide to move forward in their life. This is just one more way to make it where, exactly like you said, it's just common. It's just common knowledge.
Yeah.
Just like there's baby books, out there for, hey, your mommy's tummy is going to get big. There's books out there for someone else's tummy is going to get big, but you're still a big sibling, and it's something to celebrate and get excited about.
It helped us. It also helped with his relationship with the other family, and it helped the other kids. It helped Julia's kids and Stephanie's kids and Cindy's kids. I think it was a way for them to see and get to witness not only what happens, but what is happening for that other family. Like, your mom is giving a gift to this other family, and you get to be a part of watching it happen and supporting your mom in the process of her doing this. So it was really fun, and we got to work with a really cool illustrator that used, this is what my son looks like.
I know. I was looking at the pictures, and I think they're like in the living room. I think it's like there's a family photo, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's Brandi. Oh, wow. Like, really, the illustrator did such an amazing job. And I think the thing that I love, it really is, it encompasses such what can potentially be, a quote, complicated scenario. And, exactly like you said, you had so many people reach out to you asking all of these questions and things like that, and just not having a clear understanding. And this is just such a great, simple, just no holds barred, this is what's happening. And it's beautifully explained. It really, really is. And oh my gosh, this is one of my favorite photos. It's for, if you're just listening and you're not looking, there's this picture of Julia having an ultrasound, and the illustrator has Brandi with her hands up to her mouth. And I mean, it's just so you. Like, I mean, just it's so like it really is. I mean, it's a great book. One of the things, one of the themes that is in it is, August kind of saying he understands that he has a baby brother, but he's still not sure, if baby is going to come home. How did you kind of navigate that in real time?
Like when it happened?
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting because, like you said, my belly didn't get big, and one of the things that Oliver has either broached or asked a few times was like, "Are there any pictures of me in your belly?" Well, and just recently, he said, "Mom, is there a baby book about me?" And I said, "Oliver, you are the main character.
This is you, buddy."
This is anticipating you. Well, are there pictures of me? Yes, there's pictures of you. This is you right here. It was actually really all three times the hospitals were very even with the first one, they were very willing to accommodate and make our scenarios comfortable and easy, and as comfortable and easy as you can be at the hospital when you're delivering.
Sure, yeah.
And they were willing to let August be a part of it. With obviously with all three surrogates, their children they weren't there when the delivery happened, but August did get to be there when the delivery happened, and he did get to. I mean, he was in the room. It was 1:00 in the morning, so he was asleep on the couch, but he did wake up to a baby, and we had continually told him, this is going to be our baby. Like this baby is coming home with us. They are part of me, and they are part of Dad, and they are part of you. Like they're going to be very similar to you. They're going to love you. They're going to adore you. We went through all those scenarios, and so when baby was here, we did get to go to a room for us. Mm-hmm. Where he got to meet brother, and he got to, somebody said, somebody asked me, there's a picture in here of me in the bed.
Yeah.
And somebody was like, "Why are you in a bed? You didn't deliver." But they put us in a room, in a bed, with the skin to skin, with August getting to come in and witness that Mom has a baby and that it's his baby. And it helped create that transition of, it didn't come out of Mommy's belly, but look, like, this is our family dynamic, and this is what's happening, and you do get to love on this baby and be a part of him growing up. And even my parents got to come in this room with us, and it was a really easy transition for August to physically see Mom having a baby and coming home with that baby, and okay, we're gonna, and we went to a hotel, but we went as a group, and Mimi and Boompa went, and later Julia's family did come to the hotel and see us, and her kids got to see Oliver and
have that closure, and yeah, absolutely.
And next time we get to be together and play, and the kids would get to play, and it helped her kids also see what she had been going through for the last 2 years, and see us get to be whole with Oliver now that he was here. So it was good for them too to see what their mom had done and what they had been supporting, because they were so supportive of her. So yeah.
It's beautiful that you made sure that you were conscientious of, like you said, those transitions. And I think it's so funny that you bring up that hospital picture, because I can so imagine somebody saying something, like, well, but why would you be in a hospital bed? First of all, just logistically speaking, whenever you're in a hospital room, there's really not a whole lot of furniture to like hang out in. So like, who isn't going to be in the bed? Right. But exactly like what you said, you being in a hospital bed, having skin to skin with a baby is not sitting there saying, hey, like, let's pretend that how he got here didn't happen.
Right.
It's just the transition of, and now this is now our new family. This
Right.
is, what we're doing next.
Yeah.
And I think it's beautiful that you guys were so conscientious of thinking about that as you're talking to August and preparing him.
With to add to that, with both deliveries after August, because August, was the first
Right.
where we had kids with us, is what I mean. Like, he was with us. Oliver,
exactly. You're navigating the journey with children, and having to guide them through it, for sure.
They wanted to see our surrogates after the delivery. Like we went to see Julia after Oliver was born with August. Like, when the baby went to the nursery, we went to see Julia and we got to talk with her, and he got to see her and thank her for his brother. And, it was a way for him to recognize her and all the things that she had done in order for him to have a sibling. So it's, we're not negating it or ignoring it. In fact, if anything, we wanted him to know. And the same with Oliver. He knew Sydney and he wanted to see her. And I think making it a normal
just one more way to build your family.
I think they both love the way they were born, and they know what it is, and they appreciate it, and they like it, and that's fun.
Oh, for sure it is. For sure it is. I mean, it's just, it's an extension of, your family, going back to you guys traveling, and you have friends in all different states, and now you have extra special friends in all different states.
Yeah, and Sydney was our first Texas surrogate.
Our first Texas surrogate. Shout out.
We didn't have to go to a different state for a delivery, and the first time we didn't have to fill out different legal work for different states. So
amazing.
Birth order and not adopt her.
Your name was on that birth certificate right out the gate. What would you say, especially having done this 3 times, and then, of course, having August kind of be that, and Oliver, be the catalyst of writing the children's book and everything. What advice would you give to parents who want to talk to their children about surrogacy, whether their children are born through surrogacy or they're just curious because they hear their friend talking about it, or, that kind of thing? What advice would you want to give to parents?
That's actually funny, because you started to ask that question, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know. But you also said explaining to other kids that aren't from surrogacy. And I have, of course, run into these scenarios plenty of times where, somebody sees the book and they're like, oh, I don't want to read that to my kid yet. Or, they're afraid of trying to explain that to their kid because they're afraid their kid will ask too many questions. I think is the road that maybe it leads down, is that they're like, oh, I don't want to have to try to explain that.
Maybe it's because they don't know how to explain it.
or like, they're like, oh, then we've reached the whole how are babies made. But
sure.
but August is abnormally inquisitive and able to comprehend from a very young age. He was very, we were able to explain things very logically, and he would immediately just understand and start explaining and start comprehending and start discussing. And truthfully, I think explaining one from a scientific
matter of fact,
easy explanation was easier than trying to, I'm not saying explain things that are not age appropriate. I mean, he was 3 or 4 or 5 years old when we started explaining it. But him getting to understand early and simplistically from the start without trying to make up something that,
Sure, we're not going to bring in like the myths of a stork or like anything like that. Right. We're just going to be very like these are the facts.
Helped in the transition to explaining to Oliver, and it helps to explaining to other friends, because other parents panic and they're like, oh, we're not going to talk about how that happened. Like, it's really easy and really simple, and if you are very factual with it, it's very a smooth explanation where kids are like, oh, okay, yeah, it's easier for them to process quicker being a little more factual with it, and saying, hey, God has made every family in a different way, and he gave us the opportunity to have people that love us, that wanted to help us bring you into this world, and here we are.
Yeah. Well, I've always said I feel like, as adults we make things so much more complicated than they need to be, and kids just keep it so simple. They're they're like, okay, great, moving on.
That way more difficultly than I intended to, but it is true. Like, the simpler, the better. And they actually, I think people panic that they're going to get worried, or their feelings are going to get hurt, or they're going to get emotional about it. But really, at those young ages, they're intrigued, and it's when you explain it that soon and that simplistic, it's just, oh, okay, yeah, right,
Yeah,
okay, I get that.
Yeah, for
Now,
sure.
I think because I was so afraid of explaining it to him, now, like, he doesn't think twice about it. It's not something that I have to continue thinking, oh, is he ever going to find out? No, he thinks it's cool. He loves it. He loves the families that we have spent time with to grow our family. And, he'll say,
part of his story. Yeah, it's just his story. It's his story. It's Oliver's story. It's Khaleesi's story. Like, I mean, it's just their story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like another baby process, we call it a baby process.
It's a baby process. And and it's a process for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I know Oliver was asking, does he have a baby book? Which he obviously does. He's the star. But do you have any plans to write more?
Oh gosh. At one point I had said, oh, the adventures of Oliver or Augie and Ollie. And I to continue all their crazy chaos, and it is chaos. Our third embryo was a boy, and I thought, oh heavens, I am going to be a boy mom. And my husband would say, well, you're enough girl for the whole family. But the excitement of Khaleesi coming into our family was just, and I've thought about how fun it would be, but
no plans right now.
I think my world is a bit consumed at the moment.
I think so. Maybe one day, maybe when Khaleesi starts asking, well, wait, where am I?
Yeah. and I have a I wouldn't call it a terrible flaw, but I am a yes person. So I end up saying yes to everything, and I get myself in over my head on pretty much everything I do. So I probably will end up having some Khaleesi book,
I love it. I love it. Well, I look forward to it whenever you do. Oh my goodness. So, thinking back from just the very beginning of all of this, before Mommy's Oven, just from the very beginning, and your friend's husband is volunteering her for all of this. What advice would you give to day one Brandi?
Well, don't fear the unknown.
Yeah.
I think from the very start was so afraid of everything that could happen, or the idea of things that just I needed to take it day by day. And the sooner I had started doing that, the easier it was to enjoy and not panic over every step that happened, because it is a step every single day. There is something different every single day in this process, and and every little I that's dotted and T that's crossed. Fearing those things prior to them happening is a waste of time. It's a waste of energy, and it is something that can make the process not as amazing as it actually is.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
It was easy to be scared of things that I had no idea that were going to come in the very beginning one. And I can say now, after 3 of them, it's easy.
Nothing to worry about. Yeah.
Yeah. But in the very beginning, before any of it started, I thought every worst thing you could possibly think of. And every day my husband had to say, hey, let's just wait till we see. And over time, I realized, why am I fearing things that haven't even happened, or that I don't know are going to be a problem? And I definitely think every mom that goes into this process does that unintentionally. And if they can relinquish that fear and concern when they start, their process will be an amazing, wonderful, not that it's not amazing and wonderful already, but it will be a weight lifted off of them as they go through it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. No, that's so fantastic. Well, to wrap things up, as everybody knows, I have a very codependent relationship with coffee. Although today it's tea because some tragedy took place in my house, and for some reason there's no coffee, and so clearly it's awful. It's awful. I have to go to the grocery store. It's happening. So we're limping along with tea, which, no shade to tea, but she's a coffee girl. Anyway, all of that to say, I always love to ask the question, what filled your cup today? Literally or figuratively, what was the thing that has filled your cup today?
I walked into the living room, and this seems so simple. My boys were hugging.
Oh no, that's the good stuff.
They are always battling over something, and I walked in and they were hugging, and I was just, it was just a moment of this couldn't be more wonderful.
Yes. Oh, for sure, Mama. No, that's not simple. That's the good stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Oh gosh, I love that. I love that so much. Well, Brandi, seriously, thank you so much for your time doing this. And, again, just my own personal thank you for letting me, just be on the journey with you as we were going through, just Khaleesi coming Earthside. But yeah, and then
seriously, if we had her first, we would have so many more kids. She is the best baby on the planet.
Oh my gosh, and she's so cute. Oh my gosh, she's so cute. Oh, and those brothers, you can just tell. She's your girl. Yes. Oh yes. Oh my gosh.
I love her. She's the best.
I love that. I love that. No, for sure. For sure. She is so precious. But yeah, really, I mean, thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for just writing something like this, Mommy's Oven, and, having this resource to so many, as everyone else is going through their family building journey. So, yeah, I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Me, You, and Who. We appreciate your time and hope you enjoyed our discussion today. As we wrap, we would like to remind you of some of the ways that you can stay connected with us and be part of the Me, You, and Who podcast community. Firstly, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode and can stay up to date with our latest content. But that's not all. We also have an exciting YouTube channel where we share some bonus content, behind the scenes glimpses, and video versions of our episodes. Head over to YouTube and hit that subscribe button there as well. And don't forget to click the notification bell so you'll be the first to know when the new episodes go live. And for more exclusive updates, engaging discussions, and a chance to connect with fellow listeners. Be sure to follow us on our social media accounts. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Create a Happy Family. If you're interested in finding out more about creating a happy family, please visit us at www.createahappyfamily.com. Thank you again for being part of the Me, You, and Who community. Your support means the world to us. I can't wait for you to join us next time as we continue to share stories and journeys of creating happy families.